And 3, 2, 1, we're recording. Hi, everybody. It's always nice to get involved in a nice little room with friends that we have their names, but we don't see their faces on a regular basis because we're all avatars in an online metaverse. But welcome, I'm Paul May. So happy to have you guys, one of your managing brokers with EXP. We are so excited that you came. Please grab a sandwich. You can eat while we're talking about all this content today, okay? And I'm so happy to have my good friend, Ms. Sandra Jauregui. Sandra is not only a state assemblywoman for our state, for Nevada, but she's also my sales rep with WFG National Title. And the cool thing about what Sandra does is she goes up there and she talks and negotiates some laws to basically help us with our real estate business. So I really appreciate that about her, and the fact that she is a dynamo when it comes to marketing. She has taught me so much over the years that we've known each other, which has been almost like
7 years.
7 years.
Yeah,
because I opened the Keller Williams office in 2010. And I think we met a couple of years after that. And then I made the move over to EXP in 2019. So I'm so happy to have Sandra as our speaker. Let's hear from Sandra. How are you?
I think I know a lot of you in here. I've actually met most of you. And most of you actually came to the legislative update class that we did at Guaranteed Rate, I think, as soon as I got back from the legislative session. But I'm Sandra Jauregui. Most of you know me as your WFG sales executive, but in my other job, my non-paying job, my volunteer job, I am actually an assemblywoman for the state, and I represent Assembly District 41, and so I get to be a voice for our industry at the legislature. When I was first elected in 2016, I was actually the only full-time real estate industry professional who was represented at the legislature, and there's 21 state senators and 42 assembly members, and we had, I think there was 2 people who might have had part-time licenses, but real estate wasn't their career, and I'm not a real estate agent, I have a title and escrow, right? And I was the only person in there who was a full-time member of the real estate industry. So our industry for the longest time didn't have a voice up there. So when there would be bills brought forward or laws brought forward, there was no one there who really understood them or could explain them. And then also there was nobody there to bring ideas forward that would actually benefit our industry as well. And so now I'm there full-time, and I served I was elected in 2016, re-elected in 2018, re-elected in 2020. 2022 is a new election. In 2020 then, Haiti Kasama was elected to Assembly District 2, and so now there's 2 of us. So Haiti, who's a real estate agent, broker at Berkshire Hathaway, and me, who's in the title and escrow industry. So most of you guys, today's class is actually, we're not doing a full legislative update like we did when you guys came. I think it was, we might have done it like in July or August. It was like as soon as I got back. Yeah, we usually do it. Where we go over all of the bills that pass that impact our industry, and then we go over some of them that we were able to stop as well, so that you guys know what we do when we're up there. I think it's important for you guys as industry professionals to have all of this information so that you kind of stand out from your competition when you're speaking to buyers or sellers, right? And so that you guys are up to date with what's going on as well. Now, before we get started, I still have that PowerPoint, so I want to bring it up because we're actually going to cover, this was the PowerPoint that we went over when we did the legislative update. And so one of the bills that we actually covered was Assembly Bill 363, which is where we're spending our time on today. I told you guys that I would come back, that once the county came up with their local ordinances, I would come back and give you guys an update so that you guys would be familiar with what happened. But for those of you who weren't here, Assembly Bill 363 was a bill that was passed during the 81st legislative session in 2021. This was the bill that was going to allow for short-term rentals to become legal, Airbnbs. And I want to go through this before we go through the county laws, because you'll get an understanding of why the county came up with some of the laws that they did. So some of the laws, some people were like, why did you guys do that? They're like, well, they had to live within the framework that we gave them, right? So today's class is going to be all about Airbnbs. And if I don't have your card, make sure I get your card, because I went through this is the county presentation, but I went through the entire ordinance and I read it, and I made a handy dandy one pager for you guys so that you only have one page instead of like 400 pages of county law to read through. So this is just the important. This is the Realtor style. This is the important stuff that you need to know. So make sure you have your business card because that's the only way you will get this handout. So let's go back to here. So before we go through that, I want to go through AB 363. So AB 363, where did it go? I just deleted it. Let's see. There we go. I did accidentally delete it. Okay. So AB 363 was sponsored by Assemblywoman Rochelle Wynn, and she worked on this with the Nevada Association of Realtors, the Nevada Resort Association. So like every industry stakeholder who was going to be touched by this was at the table, right? This was a long working process. I mean, they worked on this for 18 months before we probably even got up to the legislative session. But what AB 363 did said, we are going to create a bill that's going to require counties and local governments to regulate short-term rentals. Now, it's important to know that when she passed this bill only applies to counties with a population of over 700,000 and to cities within those counties with a population of more than 25,000. Well, there's only one county in the state of Nevada that has a population of over 700,000, and that's Clark County. So this bill only applies to Clark County. And then it only applies to the cities within Clark County that have over 25,000 people, right? So that's not very many cities. And if cities already had short-term rental ordinances, then they got grandfathered in, right? So really, this bill was applying to unincorporated Clark County, Laughlin, right? Well, I don't even know, Laughlin would fall under Clark County, but so this was basically a bill for Clark County because as you all know, before this bill, short-term rentals, Airbnbs were illegal in Clark County. The only place they were legal was in the city of Las Vegas, city of North Las Vegas, and in Henderson, right? In Clark County. They're also legal in Washoe County, but we're talking about where we are in our area. So there was a lot of illegal short-term rentals operating. I think they estimate about 12,000, right? And so there was just no way for the county to be able to regulate them. And as you guys know, the county wasn't a big fan of them, right? Like the county believes that their responsibility is to provide affordable housing to Nevada families, right? And get Nevada families into home ownership. Short-term rentals don't always do that. But so this bill applied to Clark County, and it required the counties to adopt ordinances to address transient launching by July 1st, 2022, right? So we've just passed that a couple months ago. So they said, we're passing this. This was passed like mid-2021. We give you a year. It was signed like in June 2021. So we're giving you a year to come up with ordinances, with county laws to regulate short-term rentals. And your county laws can't be that we prohibit short-term rentals, right? So they said it can't be that, we're going to regulate them by saying we're banning them because that was their current practice. What AB 363 also did was set guardrails and said, like, okay, you're going to have to regulate Airbnbs, but you're going to have to live within this framework that we're providing. So we said, you can be more restrictive than 660 feet, but you can't be less restrictive. Meaning, when you come up with your laws, you have to have a minimum of 660 feet between each license, right? If you want to be more aggressive, you can. If you as a county want to say, I don't want short-term rentals within 1,000 feet of each other, you can. But you can't come in and say, I want them within 500 feet of each other. So we set the floor at 660 feet. We also said, we're going to set a floor for how close they can be to a non-restricted gaming license. A non-restricted gaming license is a hotel casino, right? So think, like if you're in Summerlin, Red Rock, if you're on the Strip, right? MGM, so a non-restricted gaming license is a hotel casino. So we're saying you cannot have a short-term rental within 2,500 feet of a non-restricted gaming license. You also need to create laws to require liability insurance for these licensees. We also said you cannot have more than 16 people in any Airbnb. I don't care if it's 20 bedrooms, we are setting an occupancy limit of 16 people. Meaning when the county is coming up with their laws, they could be more restrictive and say, we actually only want a maximum of 8 people within a short-term rental, right? And we would allow for that because that's what the state law said. You can be more restrictive, but not less. But if Clark County wanted to come in and say, no, we actually think we want to do a maximum occupancy of 20, they could not do that because we set the guardrails. We also said, I love this one, minimum stay requirements. If it's an owner occupied, they have to rent for at least 24-hour period. They cannot rent by the hour or the night, right? So you have to do at least 24 hours. If it's a non-owner occupied, you have to have at least a minimum 2-night rental period.
So they've never been to Japan?
Oh, or Quran.
You can literally rent by the hour.
There's actually a lot of hotels, I mean, not Airbnbs, but there's hotels who do that for like people who are flying and maybe need to check out of their place, but want to take it, like say they have to check out at 11, but their flight's not till 11 p.m.
Right.
They'll rent rooms close to airports for like, or close, for hours, so that people can take them out and leave there.
On the Las Vegas Boulevard.
Yeah.
Wait, who does?
Drive by.
Oh. We also said that, hey, for condos, for multifamily dwellings, not more than 10% of that multifamily dwelling can have short-term rentals in it. So this is important to note. I always like to point out this one because this is a perfect example of, like, for example, Henderson, who regulates short-term rentals already. When the city of Henderson came up with their laws, Henderson allowed for up to 25% of the multifamily dwellings to be short-term rentals. State law came in and said, nope, only 10 can be. So remember, once we set our laws, this bill allowed for everyone who already had a license, who was a legal licensee within the city of Henderson, Las Vegas, or North Las Vegas, to be grandfathered in. But moving forward, those jurisdictions, those local governments, were going to have to adhere to our guidelines. So if there was a condo complex in Henderson that had 25%, Airbnbs, then they can stay 25%, right? So they can. So they won't be forced to go back down to 10%.
So for high-rise towers, does that supersede the HOAs or the HOAs?
No, so we'll get to that. Because this addresses the HOAs as well. And then so you cannot transfer license upon sale. That's super important, right? We told the county, as they're coming up with your laws, this is one of the things we want you to follow. When people sell their home, they cannot sell the license with, okay?
Is that, that's kind of a bummer, right?
Well, we'll get into it. They can still transfer it and stuff, but yeah, they can transfer it to like within family, inherited and stuff, but they can't sell they can't sell they can't sell the home with the Airbnb license. It's not transferable. Okay, and then we also said, match 5 authorizations per state license. So if someone wanted to have, so someone's gonna get an Airbnb, just like you guys have to get a state license, business license, someone who wants to have an Airbnb has to get a state business license, and the most permits they can have for that state license, so the most short-term rental licenses is 5. And then we also allowed for an establishment of civil penalties, meaning we gave them the authority to say like, hey, you can come up with a formula to fine licensees who aren't following the law, right? Which will help address some of these illegal short-term rentals, and then also allow for some of the enforcement for those licensees who are violating codes.
So what is the definition of a short-term rental? Is it 30 days or less?
30 days or less.
So it's,
If you're renting for 31 days or more, you are not a short-term rental.
okay, so there's a definite demarcation.
That's defined in NRS. A short-term rental is 1 to 30 days.
Will anything change in Henderson when the license doesn't transfer in terms of the grandfathering and the 25%?
Yeah, so they'll have to, So like say, there's a.
Does it then update to the 20%?
No, it updates to 10%.
Or 10%?
Yeah.
So if you
Because
have.
Henderson already changed their laws to match ours, so. Yeah,
So if they sell and they're an Airbnb, potentially they aren't going to be able to get that transfer.
Correct.
So
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
The 5 max state license.
I don't even pay attention to that because it's kind of obsolete with the county ordinances.
Okay.
So this is what we set in 2021, that the county had a year to live with it and come up with their laws. But that's actually obsolete because the county went more aggressive than that.
What I've heard is you can put it under a corporation now.
Yeah, so if they went more aggressive, you can only have 1 license, you can't even have 5. So that was one of the examples where they went more aggressive than what the floor that we set.
One license per individual?
Yeah.
Or what about you start doing different corporations?
Nope. Well, and we'll get to that. We're gonna get to the county licenses. So great questions.
You may want to plug that up.
Good call. Okay, so I'll keep talking while I do this. So it established civil penalties. And then, okay. Okay, and so just a few things, the reason why, because of I didn't actually sit on the committee where this was presented, but I watched it out there because it affects our industry, so I wanted to make sure I was like, following it. But one of the things I thought, some interesting facts that I learned is that the state loses about $45 million in lost room tax revenue. So that's money that we're not collecting as a state that can go towards like education, public safety, social services and stuff, because people aren't paying taxes on Airbnbs like they pay taxes when they rent a hotel room, right? So it also implements, also said that, hey, we're gonna allow you to enforce this and create civil penalties from $1,000 to $10,000 depending on how severe the penalty of that licensee is. So the most the county could fine a licensee is $1,000. The minimum it could fine is $1,000. The most it could be is $10,000. And then it also required for the accommodation facilitators, and then accommodation facilitators is VRBO, Airbnb, the platform itself, right? Who hosts these properties, that's what accommodation facilitators are. It's gonna require them now to monitor licensees and require everyone on there to have license numbers, and then to send their monthly report to the state or to the county of all of their active users.
So
This
so that means if you are operating illegally, they will turn you off because you're.
It's gonna be hard, the reality is, I think it's gonna be hard, I mean, there's thousands of rentals, right, there's thousands. But if they do, if someone does identify, they have 5 days to remove you from their platform, so. I mean, the reality is, you don't want to be operating illegally, right? And it requires accommodation facilitators to collect applicable taxes and remit them to the county. So like for licensees, someone who's doing short-term rentals with their property, you don't have to go through Airbnb and VRBO. You can do it on your own, right? Like throw it on Craigslist or something. But if you're gonna be the accommodation facilitator, then you're required to send the monthly reports to the county. If not, if you have them on Airbnb and VRBO, they do it for you automatically.
I have an Airbnb at Palm's Place, and I tried to get Airbnb to handle the taxes, and in Clark County, that's one of the counties that they said they cannot handle the taxes.
That was probably before this, so.
Well, this is just in the last month.
No, that's they're required to, so
So
actually,
maybe they're changing it now.
they might be, because once this ordinance passed, they're required by this law that just passed, the county, right, the county law, this just went into effect on July 1st.
So my next question is, how does this law affect the 5 condo hotel?
It doesn't apply, so we're gonna go through that right here, so, perfect. Okay, so what I did was I read through the county ordinances. Now that you have some background, I wanted, before I went through the county ordinances, I wanted you guys to kind of get some background as to where these came about, right, where this came from. I think it's important, again, to note that Clark County didn't want short-term rentals. They, if you look at, they did,
Casinos don't want competition.
not that, but they did tons of surveys, and they were like, the Nevada Association of Realtors and LBGR was super involved, because I'm on their distribution list. You guys got tons of emails about when the town halls were being heard, the surveys that were being published, and so they did local town halls, they did surveys, they pushed the public to get involved, and these were actually some really interesting stats that they collected from the town halls and the surveys. Like, they actually physically collected surveys, but I thought these were really cool. So 55% of the respondents views the presence of short-term rentals in their neighborhoods negatively. So like, most people didn't want the house next door to be a short-term rental, right? And so while 3% stated that short-term rentals had a positive impact on their neighborhood, 76% of respondents felt the county should limit the overall maximum number of guests permitted to fewer than 16. 77% of respondents wanted a limited number of guests per bedroom, with 70% recommending 2 guests per bedroom. More than 80% of respondents felt that AB 363 mandated designated representatives should respond to address issues in less than 1 hour. So they, for a year, they collected information and had town halls and published the surveys so that they could, again, because they have to answer to their constituency. The majority of their constituency didn't want short-term rentals. Yes.
So I went to the town halls in my,
The county one?
Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Jones is my commissioner, and he absolutely hates short-term rentals. And the whole tenor was, I think this is bad, don't you agree? There was no democratic discussion about anything.
Well, they were forced to do it, so they didn't have a say, they didn't want to do it. They were mandated by the state to regulate them.
Right, but some of those numbers are coming out of those meetings.
No, those numbers came out specifically from surveys that they collected.
But
Surveys.
I can tell you now that he was so against it that you just kept your mouth shut and you thought it was a good thing, so he did color the discussion.
Yeah, well, and that's a good thing that you want to participate in, because very few people actually do go and participate, right? And most of the time they listen to their constituency, because that's how, those are the people they have to answer to.
And that speaks to a question that I wanted to ask before she asked hers, was What were the surveys? What were the questions on the surveys?
You can head to the Clark County,
Yeah.
yeah, you'll have to head to the Clark County website. to
Yeah, because
also-
how they were worded could determine, like she
Yeah.
said, how much bias is in there. So how accurate are these results?
I filled out the survey and it was very unbiased.
Unbiased?
Yes, the surveys were very non-committal.
Good,
And
thank
it was a very good survey.
I love how active you are, that's great, that's good. Okay, so let's go through them so that you guys know what the laws say. Okay, so this is a proposed ordinance as a result of AB 363 that required Clark County to regulate short-term rentals. One, the application process will open September 13th, which I think was a few days ago. So the application process is now live. You can go on and apply. That application process is gonna stay open for 6 months. And they are gonna take every single application that comes in for short-term rentals. Licenses will be given out on a randomly selected basis. We're not supposed to use this word in Nevada because it's illegal, like we don't have a state lottery, right? But that's basically how it's gonna be. It's randomly selected. And a random selection, I guess, is a lottery, right? But, so they're not gonna say we're only taking 3,000 applications. If 10,000 people apply, then out of the number of licenses that they're gonna give, it's gonna come out of 10,000 applications, right? So, licenses will be given out on a randomly selected basis. Overall number of licenses to be issued is 1% of the housing stock. So meaning they're gonna issue 1% of however many homes there are in Clark County. So if homes go up, if builders build 100,000 homes, then the number's gonna increase every year, right? Only one license per person. So this is the important thing. When we talked about the state license, state business license and being able to have 5 authorizations under that state license, well, that's a moot point because they're saying that you can only have 1 license per person or entity. You cannot have interest in any other license, so no more than 1 license allowed per person. What that means is if I have an Airbnb in Clark County under Sandra Jauregui, I can then not go have an Airbnb under the Jauregui LLC where I have interest in that company. You cannot have any interest in any other short-term rental. I can have a short-term rental in Clark County, I can have a short-term rental in the city of Henderson, I can have a short-term rental in the city of Las Vegas, and I can have one in North Las Vegas, right? And but I can't have 2 in unincorporated Clark County. So in unincorporated Clark County, you guys all know, you're all realtors, so you all know what unincorporated Clark County is, right? You know where the cities are and where unincorporated is, where your townships are. You can't have more than 1. You can have 1 in each jurisdiction, but you can't have 2 in Clark County. You can have 2 in Henderson, you can have 2 in the city of Las Vegas, you can have 2 in North Las Vegas, and then have 1 in Clark County, but you can't have 2 in unincorporated Clark County.
Do you need license for every property you own or?
Yes.
Just for the Airbnb.
For Airbnb, you need a license, yeah. So if you have 5 in the city of Las Vegas, you need 5 city of Las Vegas licenses. And if you have 1 in Clark County, then you need a Clark County license. Okay.
And the ones in Las Vegas and Henderson, are they limited? How many you can have per?
No, but they have their regulations, right? So you have to follow their city laws, which is like within 660 feet, you can't be within 2,500 feet of a non-restricted gaming license, and, okay, so all those must have a state license, and then they must carry a county license as well, right? And then license cost depends on size. If the facility is 0 to 3 bedrooms, your license is only gonna be $750. If it's a 4+ bedroom unit, your annual license fee is $1,500. Your short-term rental license cannot be transferred upon sale except for marriage, transfer between spouses or domestic partner, or a testamentary transfer, will, right, or trust. So you cannot sell it.
Is there an application fee?
Yes, there's an application fee when you go and apply, correct. The occupancy limit is set to 2 per bedroom with no more than 10 people. Parties are prohibited, and parties by law are defined by more than 10 plus people. So remember when in AB 363 where we said you can't have more than 16 people? This is one of those areas where they went more restrictive and they said you can't have more than 10 people. So minimum 2-night stay for all reservations. So you can't do a 1-night stay. You have to do a minimum 2-night stay for your short-term rental, and minimum 1,000 feet between short-term rentals. So we had set the floor at 660 feet. They said you have to be at least 1,000 feet between every short-term rental. Minimum 2,500 feet from a non-restricted gaming license, so they stayed at the floor that we set. And then we have said no more than 10% of units in a multifamily dwelling can be licensed. That stayed. This excludes apartments, right? So remember, like, if you rent at, what's the closest apartment? Like, isn't there one in downtown Summerlin?
Queensbridge.
Huh?
Queensbridge.
Queensbridge. No, those are homes though. Like if you're in an apartment building, you can't put your apartment on Airbnb and get a license because you don't own it. So you can't rent apartments. So this does not apply to apartments. Licensees must carry $500,000 in liability insurance in case somebody gets hurt. You can't see on here, right? Okay. $500,000 in liability insurance. Licensees must allow the county to inspect the residential units without advance notice. So if there is random inspection, if a neighbor calls and complains, the city can pop by and check. Neighbor can call and say, hey, I think there's 20 people in the short-term rental notice. They don't have to give you notice. They can stop by and pop by and do an inspection. You cannot seek a license. Oh yeah, so you cannot seek a license on a mobile or manufactured home or on a residential unit not intended for permanent lodging. You cannot put a tent in your front yard and put it on Airbnb. That's like, you cannot put your travel trailer in your driveway and put it on Airbnb. It has to be intended for permanent lodging. Okay, people do that, so.
Lots of people do that.
Yeah, lots of people do that. County ordinances does not apply to condo hotels. What's a condo hotel? The Palms, MGM Signature, Trump Casino, so that does not apply. So if you have 5 units at the Palms,
Yeah.
this doesn't apply to condo hotels.
Now, do I need to be licensed?
No, this does not, this does not apply to condo hotels.
Okay, so even if Holmes doesn't understand this law, I've been asking them, and I get a different answer depending on who I talk to. They have no idea they don't know if it applies or not.
Yeah, so I'll send you a copy of the actual ordinance.
Yeah, I have that, but it
Okay.
doesn't really address.
No, it doesn't. In there it states that it does not apply to, it defines it in a way that like, it does not apply to like, buildings that are not intended to be
Right.
permanent, like single, like
So there's no
residential.
changes to their,
Unless they, as a association, decide they don't want it.
okay.
Yeah, I recently sold a unit in the Palms, and the gentleman was very interested as far as what he could and could not do with it. And, you know, the Palms gives you the opportunity to put it on Airbnb, but then the Palms charges a fee for you to do that
Yes.
because they want you to go ahead and for 50%, 50-50 split,
Yeah.
they want to do the management of it. But none of this applies to
Yeah.
those because those are condo hotels that were created
For
for
condo purposes.
short-term
Right.
stays.
So I do have a question for you. The transient fee that those hotels charge, is that part of their license with the state? Or
I
is that?
can't answer that, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it, if it's a
You mean
state license or a
Palms?
county license?
Yeah, sometimes they charge, you know, additional fees.
Like the accommodation facilitators or the hotel, like Palms itself?
Well, they charge a lot per month, and I know they all charge something,
Business.
and they tell me that that's a state mandated fee, that just by,
Oh, if you send it to me, if they say it's a state mandated fee and you send it to me, I can look it up easily.
yeah, I'm just so
Yeah.
curious.
It might be you
Yeah.
wanting you. and say,
Yeah,
"Oh,
no,
it's
if
there,
if they tell you it's a state mandated fee, I can look it up easily and tell you like, oh yeah, this is the NRS where it says that they must charge these.
Okay, so we all have to have a state business license for our real estate license. If we win the lottery and get a short-term rental license for one home, one person, do we have to get a separate state business license for that, or does our state business license for this apply?
If they just, you have to have a business license, that's a great question. I mean, I can reach out to the county commissioner. I'm actually doing a class with one of the county commissioners next week on this, but yeah.
So the question is, do you need two or one?
Because like you, right, like
Yeah.
one as your, because I don't know, as a real estate agent, when you get a license, is it specific to real estate or is it just for your
No,
business?
it's a business license.
Yeah, well then you might be able to.
Okay.
I would call the
You gotta
Secretary of
check.
State because that's where you get it from, is a business license, right? So you just have to have a business, they just want to make sure that you're paying, if you're a business, that you're paying business license fees, right?
So
Just
we're
like every other
halfway there.
business. Yeah, you're halfway there. You just gotta own a home in unincorporated Clark County next, right?
Not a problem there.
Okay, only homes connected to, okay, so this is cool. So owners must have a 24, wait, here we go, where was I? Okay, county ordinances don't apply to condo hotels. Accommodation facilitators cannot have any unlicensed units on their platform. They have 5 days to remove them if they're notified, right? So, I mean, they're really not gonna go through and scour through their licenses, but if someone comes across one, and like if the neighbor reports, hey, there's an illegal Airbnb, I just checked my neighbor, they don't have a license, and they call and tell the county can reach out to Airbnb, and Airbnb would have 5 days to remove them, or VRBO to remove them. Owners must have a 24-hour local phone number for guests to call, and calls must be returned within 30 minutes. Only homes connected to sewer will be allowed a license, no homes with septic tanks. So, yeah, that's a huge one. No, enterprise, when the majority of enterprise isn't septic, there's a big chunk like section 10, and stuff like that are, but yeah, no, only homes connected to sewer lines will be allowed to have short-term rental licenses. No homes subject to affordability covenants, so will be allowed short-term rental licenses. So if you are receiving Section 8 vouchers, right, or you built a affordable housing development, right, and you're getting property tax subsidies, you cannot apply for short-term rental licenses. CCNRs have to expressly allow short-term rentals. If they do not address it, they are not allowed. Meaning, for example, I live in a little small community of 28 homes. Our CCNRs say nothing about short-term rentals. They are silent on the matter. Meaning that means they are not allowed. That means they are expressly forbidden, right? Your CCNRs have to expressly state, we allow, rentals less than 31 days in this community. So you have to be able to prove that.
There's one in Clark County that does.
Yeah, each way does, yeah, absolutely. And they didn't even have to put this in there. They didn't even have to put this in there because most HOAs are transitioning into updating their CCNRs to expressly prohibit that, right? No HOA wants short-term rentals in there, so. But most of it, well, there is a lot of unincorporated Clark County that is HOA. Okay, so these rules do not affect short-term rentals that are permitted, licensed by other Southern Nevada municipalities. So City of Las Vegas, Henderson, and North Las Vegas, right? This does not include these. And then also excluded areas, Mount Charleston, Moapa Township, Moapa Valley, Mesquite Township, Bunkerville. And then those are excluded from this bill as well. So if they decide to come up with their own short-term rental laws, they can come up with their own. One of the areas that AB 363 did prohibit was Boulder City because they just didn't have the manpower to be able to regulate.
Yeah, because I know there was a big group of neighbors that went down, so I went to all the meetings too, because I was heavy into STRs for a long time. In Mount Charleston, they were really upset, so they were really prohibiting for the septic tanks, saying that for the sewers, that's how that probably got slipped in there, so it made sense to eliminate it.
I think a lot of that too, just water conservation, like everything, they're trying to move away and encourage people to get away from septic tanks because Southern Nevada actually is the gold standard in water recycling. We capture about 99% of the water that we use and recycle it. The only water that we don't capture because it's not connected to sewer is septic tanks. So all of that water never gets recycled. So it's something that we're trying to completely move away from, right? So that we can recycle. Water isn't abundant here, so we can use every drop we can. But so this is basically what's important to you guys, right? This is what you need to know, right? This is the important stuff. There's other things. I'll send you guys the ordinance. You guys can read through it. But there's other things that aren't like major that you need to know in order to be a good real estate agent for your clients, right? Like you have to have a fire extinguisher on every floor. If there is like monitoring requirements where lights have to be, where cameras have to be, where notices like where the address has to be displayed. There's minor little things like that, right? But I think as far as like what's going to get you a license and what you need to know, this is the stuff you need to know. But if you want to apply, I am going to send this to you guys. This is Clark County's information. They have, where's that slide?
What did you say about Boulder City?
Boulder City does not, you cannot do, I don't know where that question came from. Oh, but you cannot have short-term rentals in Boulder City. Yeah, no. I think Searchlight gets like one license. I think it's depending on the population of the townships. And the cost of the application is like $35 or $40.
One more question too.
Yeah, shoot.
So let's say 10,000 people apply for a license, and I heard the number was 2,500 that they were going to accept.
It's like under 2,900.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 1% of the total number of housing stock within the townships. So it's under 2,900. It's like 2,865.
So let's say the other 7,000, you don't think the city's gonna send all those addresses to Airbnb to get them removed?
They could, there's gonna be people who apply, they could. I can't tell you what the city or the county's gonna do, right? I have to know what they might. There might be people who don't have to be legal. There's gonna be tons of people who apply for it because they wanna rent out their personal home, right? They wanna be able to have a license, or maybe because they bought a home intending to make it a short-term rental. There's gonna be applications for people who I think already are illegally doing short-term rentals, and there's gonna be a good population of people who want to legally do short-term rentals that don't have one yet. So I think there's just gonna be a ton of applications, right?
Is there a software or system to check the distance between?
So they did. They went with a company they hired a company who randomly does everything. So like when the first license is handed out, right? then, from my understanding, when the second licensee is randomly selected, it's gonna run it through to make sure it's not within 1,000 feet of that person and things
Oh,
like
wow.
that. So it's all randomly done, like through
So before,
a third party.
before buying investment to be dedicated to the Airbnb, can I have access to that software to make sure that I'm picking the right location?
No, because it's gonna be randomly selected, you would just have to apply. Honestly, you would have to have a property already, like when you apply, you can't apply without a property. Because you can't apply for a license without a property because all that information has to be in there when they start randomly selecting. You can't get a license and then go look for a property, that's not gonna be.
They do have a site though that you can actually see
Yeah.
where the map is.
Yeah, they do, so they have.
Yeah, I was about to pull
So we
it
have
up.
it right here, so like, this will walk you through, right, so like, example of eligible location, so they have this on all of their things, how to create, example of an eligible location, how to go through that. And this is a PowerPoint from Clark County themselves, so this isn't my PowerPoint, this is a Clark County PowerPoint that walks you through a lot. I think they have, let me see, one second.
Is everyone making sure that it's actually random that
Yeah.
they're selecting?
Yeah, they hired a company, they're not doing it, Clark County can't do it, they're hiring a third-party company.
Because random is not always random.
What company does it do that?
I don't, I think they have it on their website. I thought they had it in here, but I'm sure you can go, so if you go,
Government random is not random.
Oh, wow. I got it here, Sandra.
okay, I was gonna.
Did you have any more slides?
No, that was it, I just wanted to leave that, that's all I had for you guys. Do you want to connect yours? Yeah, they have to go through a company, because they can easily get sued as a county, and you can sue the government if you know what I mean, like if everything was not
I know
random.
what the cannabis thing was, it's considered random and it's kind of hard to.
Yeah, I don't know the cannabis random selection, but.
So there's the short-term rental group that's gotten together and filed a lawsuit.
There's a short-term rental association.
Yeah, do you see that as any impact?
Yeah, I can't speak to the law, that's a county lawsuit, like, I have no information on the, I'm not a county elected official, I'm a state elected official. I read through their information and I was just passing it through, but I asked, they can't speak because it's an active litigation, they can't speak to it.
I'm just curious about the large group and they've got some money behind them.
So like, you guys, this is the map right here, it's lasvegas.maps.arcgis.com. And what you can do is you can, I can just pop it onto the Nevada South Workplace Group, and you guys can all have it in there. So basically, you enter your address, and then there's a distance that you can check between
So,
another.
this is for the city of Las Vegas though, so that's the difference. This is just specifically to the city of Las Vegas, this one. So that's downtown Las Vegas, Summerlin, right? You know your boundaries. So this doesn't apply to unincorporated Clark County, Henderson, and, I couldn't think of the
North
other.
Las
North Las
Vegas.
Vegas, there you go. Thank you.
So, but it does show you, these are existing short-term rentals. Look, there's one right there, unincorporated Clark County. Who's that?
Whose is that dog? Whose is that dog, right?
You, 6646 Meadowlark Lane in 89103. And then you got this right here. This one's a short-term rental. So these are all registered short-term rentals, even though it's showing, City of Las Vegas and stuff. It shows, isn't this unincorporated Clark County?
Well, city, city of Rose. Well, this is up here, it's city. Just that one isn't. So, you guys can go to the Clark County website, they actually have a distribution list, which is really important to sign up for, because that's how you find out about key factors, like, for those people who had already signed up, they started getting notification like, hey, the web application's gonna go live, right? Or like, you have to have it by this date. So if you literally just Google Clark County short-term rentals, it'll take you to the Clark County page where you can sign up for their distribution list. That way you hear of all of the news related to short-term rentals, and then you can access their applications and stuff.
Awesome. Did you guys have any other than short-term rentals, real estate questions, what other legislative things, I mean, we have a few more minutes.
Yeah, we have
What other
20 minutes.
legislative things were passed
I
that
have
we
a
should be
question.
aware of?
So on that, my hated landlord-tenant bill, it expires on June 30th, 2023,
Or when the money runs out.
or when the money runs out. So how do we find out when the money runs out? Because I read that it ran out in Reno.
No, that's different. You can't, so this is a state pot of money, so it's not divided, it's just, it was $5 million set aside for landlords who couldn't.
No, I think it's 486 or whatever.
486 is a landlord renter assistance
Yes.
program, and the only money that sets aside is $5 million for landlords to access to pay back rent.
All right, so what about the tenant portion where you take?
All of the CHAP money, that's run through, even the state money that was given for CHAP is run through the counties. So, right, like Clark County's running the CHAP program, Washoe County's running the CHAP program, but that's for renters to apply.
Right, and so when does that, how do we, as landlord knows when that money's up? And the law expires on June 30th, 2023.
AB 486 expires, that's completely separate from CHAP program. So that money has to be expended, I think, by, there's a certain date that money has to be expended by, but that's not gonna be a problem, that money's going out.
Okay, so but after June 30th, 2023, we don't have to worry about, we landlords don't have to worry about that law unless the legislature passes something
So
similar.
let me bring up AB 468 because that might just be applicable to the dollar portion, not to the entire bill, but we'll see AB 486 and B 2021. Oh, I have to say so.
Because right now, it makes it impossible to evict anybody, because they have to apply.
If you collected the money, right?
No, but if you want to evict anybody, if you look at the 7-day quit or pay notice, there's a paragraph that says you can apply for CHAP, and this will stay the eviction until you apply. Well, CHAP doesn't talk to landlords, and then if you get denied, you apply again, an appeal, and it could go on forever, and the judge will not evict anyone.
Right.
So this, in other words, is renters who don't want to pay get away free until June 30th, 2023. So my question is, when that happens, does that rule go away? Can we evict these tenants?
Well, even now, the landlord has the right to show proof of why eviction is necessary, and the judge can grant it, even if, like, say, for instance, like, if somebody applies for CHAP, right, like, once the eviction gets stayed, the judge grants the stay because they're applied for CHAP. If a decision comes back and they're ineligible, they can move forward with eviction.
Yes, but CHAP doesn't tell the landlord, and the judge, I've
486
been there.
Yeah,
The
486
judge-
requires, yeah.
The judge does not do anything until you, the landlord, go back, but I keep emailing CHAP and they ignore me. So I have no idea what's happening.
Yeah, reach out to your legislator, we can easily escalate stuff. Reach out, right, you can reach out to me on IT, but like, that stuff we can, if you're not hearing because Clark County is like dealing with a backlog of applications or something, right, then that's something that we can escalate for you. We can reach out and
I had a
get
landlord situation
And
where
people do- I've reached out
she
to
had she attempted to apply for the program, and if she got the money, then you can't evict. But
Well,
she
that's
didn't get the
for
money.
2 months.
And then we went to a Zoom. I was helping this little lady that didn't know how to do it, and he ordered an eviction,
Mm-hmm.
So people are still getting evicted, it's just you have to go through the system. And it
Yeah.
does, it's the same as when we were doing mediation, and they filed the mediation law that slowed down the foreclosures.
Foreclosure
You just have
mediation
to-
program.
You have to go through that, and there's both sides. I mean, sometimes it protects homeowners who are getting ramrodded and foreclosed on right away. But then on the other side, Arizona got through foreclosures a lot quicker than we did back in the day. And they're all trying to, create laws that protect the consumer. Sometimes, unfortunately, it hinders the landlord.
And both, like this one tried to do both, this one tried to be very balanced, and again, this was a bill that was worked on with everyone at the stakeholder, right, legal aid centers, the eviction mediation program, Nevada Association of Realtors, like everyone was at the table with this bill, and And this bill did create a mechanism to allow landlords whose tenants weren't responding to move forward with eviction and for the judge to grant evictions. It also allowed for a mechanism where it set $5 million right up so that if a landlord could prove that like, hey, you know, this person isn't responding to requests to apply for CHAP, the landlord could then apply for the rental assistance program and be made 100% whole for any back rent owed. So, but it did create a mechanism again for, and this only applies for failure to pay for COVID-related reasons, right? Like, I mean, if there was another reason for eviction, like nuisance, or, I mean, that stuff, this doesn't apply to that at all.
Okay, so now, but that's not what the 7-day.
That was a whole separate bill from like, yeah, the 4 years ago, yeah.
The 7-day notice to quit or pay today doesn't say anything about COVID. You're saying this is only COVID, so now they
Well,
can't use it?
8486 was specifically a bill in response to COVID.
All right, so then we could tell the judge this isn't a COVID issue anymore and.
Well, yeah.
Should proceed.
But if it's, so if like they're not paying because they were laid off due to COVID, then that's a COVID-related issue, right?
So that's the only,
So
reason
this
for the
is
judge.
correct. So, and
Got it.
here, I'm gonna send this to you. I thought this link worked, but apparently it doesn't. Hold on. When I created these, I made these all hyperlinks, but.
We went over.
Oh, yeah, it does. Okay. Okay. So this is the actual bill text. You can actually read through it. The easiest way to do to look up bills, like if you just go to Google and you just go AB 486 NV, so for Nevada, and then the year, then it'll look it up for you, but I already have it up, right? So you can just click on this and it'll take you to the bill. But this is the actual bill language, and there was, I mean, I don't know exactly where in this text it is, but it'll walk you through. So if we go here to text. Let's see. Oh, that loads.
Such fun reading.
It is, right? It's not, and this bill isn't long, it's 8 pages. So, and the digest gives you everything you need to, yeah. No, this is fun reading, right? So.
Legislative bill. That's why I have Mr. Spencer Walden, everybody. There he is right there. Say hello. You guys don't see Spencer except on the audio.
Avatar, right?
Yeah. Say a few words, Spencer. Welcome, my man. Welcome, welcome.
You guys.
All right.
Having fun? Learning a lot, right? And you're gonna pass this on to your clients, right?
Absolutely.
The resource and knowledge.
Yesterday in contracts class, we discussed personal transactions, what you can and cannot do with EXP. Make sure to go on to Workplace South and watch that recording in the contract class because we went over it specifically yesterday. And a lot of agents are not aware that it's not illegal to do both sides of the transaction, but we prohibit it with EXP. We don't want you representing the buyer and selling your own personal property. It's against standard operating procedure of EXP. We get a lot of these questions and we teach a lot throughout the week on Wednesdays, Thursdays. I did a power hour today. I'd love to have more participation in those classes. I think I only had like 10 people. I think Patricia, it was you, me, and the new Craig and Craig, right? But please go back to your Workplace South and Workplace North at the very top. All the recordings of all the trainings that we do, because we always run into situations where agents come running with a problem. Why? Because they weren't educated in plugging into training in the first place. Because they'll say, "Oh, this happened." I go, "You know what? We taught that last week. Where were you?" So please plug in.
What happened yesterday? We were in the middle of teaching that specific topic.
Yeah.
And a broker's chat. Everybody has a broker's chat set up, right?
Hopefully. Does everybody have a broker's chat?
So the broker's chat came in specifically on a personal transaction. Right?
Yes.
So plug into those meetings.
Please do.
That's what we love to happen and talk. Learn from you too.
Absolutely.
Back here.
A dual transaction, can someone on the team handle it?
Yeah, you can assign another agent.
Only on your personal property.
We all use the same email, team email.
As long as you're applying, if you assign, see, in a personal transaction, you can't represent both parties. If you want to help that buyer have representation, go for it. Have them be represented by one of your team members, so there's some separation. We'll do it.
I'll do an open house.
And just to answer your question too, because on the bill text, the entire bill expires in 2023.
2023.
Yeah, June 32nd, June, yeah.
I'm counting the days.
How about this one, Sandra? How are we doing with this?
Nevada, good, actually not a lot of the money's going out, I don't think the assistant's there. She didn't bring this.
What was
What was that one about?
So we talked about this too.
We talked about this last year, and we talked about it a few months.
We talked about it before it came out at that same class, but NAHAG is the Nevada Affordable Housing Assistance Corporation. It was a nonprofit set up to administer federal funds that come. This was set up in 2010 to 2012 to administer the hardest hit funds, which is $200 million that we had got for being one of the 5 hardest hit states during the housing crisis. So it's still around and it was doing some of the work. So when we received and approved $129 million for homeowner assistance again, it's going through NAHAC. So if you know anyone who was in forbearance or is behind due to COVID, facing foreclosure, there's $130 million out there to bring them and make them whole.
Yeah. I mean, there's like 20 foreclosures registered on the MLS.
But not just, I mean, there's not that many foreclosures, but forbearance. There's so many homeowners. I mean, what a great way to go through your past clients database and call them with the information like, hey, I just wanted to share this information with you in case you know anyone who needs it, right? It's just a great way to touch your sphere of past clients because they might not need it, but at least you get to reach out to them with a good reason, but they might know someone who does, and it cures forbearance. So there's many people who maybe weren't making their mortgage payment because they lost their job, right, for 3 months, and the mortgage companies were like, okay, you don't have to make your payment for 6 months, we're gonna spread it out over the next 2 years, or we're gonna add it to the back of your loan. Well, this will help cure that.
That's awesome, right? I mean,
What was that amount?
It's $130 million.
so yeah, it's nahac.org. And, you know, you can always do kind of do you know anyone that, you know, took forbearance during the mortgage crisis, during the COVID crisis?
There's dollars in our state that will return if they don't.
A lot of people, I know people that applied for forbearance and they really didn't need to. But ultimately, that's a program that you could, you know, hey, everything has some red tape to it. There are some limitations, like you can't turn around and sell your house the next day. I think I talked to him about that. You have to, like, you know, stay in your home for a certain period of time. But this is a program that's available to help people that, if they want to get that forbearance money off the back end of their loan, this is a program that can help.
Or if they're generally in default because it was a COVID-related reason, right? This will cure that for them, even if they are in foreclosure already.
Yeah.
Yes. I heard there's a bill about rent control.
No, we're not in session. There's no bills right now because we're not in session. So we won't go into the legislative session until February 2023.
Got it. Is that maybe on the table?
I mean, there's 63 legislators and I don't know, there's like 3,000 bills introduced every legislative session. So I know what bills I work on, I know what bills some of the colleagues, but I could not tell you what someone's going to bring. I'm sure there's going to be tons of housing bills, right? But every legislature gets to introduce their own sets of bills.
Any of these funds that are to help the homeowners and stuff like that, are there any programs for commercial real estate property owners?
Not that I know of. So like AB 486 didn't apply to commercial, this doesn't apply to commercial, so yeah. These are all residential specific programs.
So there's no.
Yeah, there was tons of money, but it's gone. Like I think one of the first bills we passed was $50 million to go to small businesses to help with commercial leases and stuff, but that money was expended quickly. There was tons of programs, but that money for commercial went quickly. It was the PETS program, so it was by our state treasurer, Zach Cohen, I introduced that bill. He had brought forward a bill for the PETS program, and that money went quickly. During our legislative session, we approved another $50 million, and it went quickly.
Any other questions, you guys? I know.
We did yesterday during interim finance committee approve. Oh my God, I can't. There's money that just came out for small businesses that we approved yesterday during interim finance committee. I can't remember the exact amount, but it's coming out in 3 different tranches. And the first tranche just got approved yesterday, and it's millions of dollars for small businesses.
Can I give my email?
Mm-hmm.
Can I give my email? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, what? I can't.
Can I give you my email? Sorry, and I can.
Oh yeah, let me see if I can. It's gonna
Reach out to me,
go.
Omar, through Workplace, but Sandra will pop her information on the website as far as her information. You can always reach out to me. I have all Sandra's information. You can go to Workplace, go to Paul May Managing Broker, any questions you have. for Sandra, you can filter them through me or, just reach out to her. If you Google Sandra Jauregui, Jauregui, Jauregui.
Howdy, how is it?
Howdy.
Howdy, and then you're like your knee, but with a G.
That's right, okay.
That's funny. What did you say the name of the one was, the millions for small businesses?
Oh, it's not, there's no name, it's just grant money that's gonna be available through the Governor's Office of Economic Development.
And it's not yet?
We approved it yesterday, I don't know how quickly they're gonna get it out, like how quickly or what the application process is gonna be like, but we approved it for them to start using it. Let me see.
Quick question, the HOAs override the county unincorporated law?
Yeah, HOAs, yeah, absolutely.
But I was surprised at Spanish Trails, they allow,
There you go.
rentals more than 31
It's
days.
105 million, that's the first tranche, it's 105 million for small
You can
businesses.
do a month-to-month rental in the lakes. You just can't do less than 30 days.
Okay.
And I told my clients when they bought the property, I said, you can do a monthly, if you can't do less, and they started to do it, and their neighbors came on, there was an ordinance on their wall, and I said, give me those rules again, no, I gave them to you, and told you specifically, month to month.
Yes, but you can go on the platforms and click 30 days or more, and you can do corporate rentals, which are actually just as profitable.
Can you go back to that?
And a whole lot less work.
Absolutely.
So you just have to have nicer furnishings, so.
When I first got into the business in Bethel, that's what I did. I did corporate rentals in Las Vegas. I met this lady, I was still a performer on the Las Vegas Strip. I had lots of performers coming into town, and we paired together, and that's pretty much all I did for my first year of real estate is run around and do corporate rentals. 31 days plus, they're everywhere.
And the platforms will get you that, because you just check the box on how long the stay has to be. So
Yeah.
if you don't get a license but have really nicely furnished place that's well situated, just switch to corporate rentals and voila, you're done.
And you can do those on all of the accommodation platforms too,
Right.
do like minimum 31-day stays and they rent. And most HOA, CCNRs, like say it has to be 31 days or more.
Yeah, none of these laws affect 30 days of rental, though, right? Just
No,
one.
these are
No,
all
just short-term rental. Yeah, that was just short-term rental.
Does anybody, you guys, if you haven't registered yet, please think about coming to EXPCon. It's going to be an amazing event. We've been doing the corporate meetings. They're going to have some amazing revelations come out during EXPCon that, you should, be a part of. It's just a great way to network with agents all over the country. And it's a great way to really understand the power of this brokerage because when I joined, there were 16,000 agents with EXP. Now we're over 43,000.
84.
84, sorry. 84. I am dyslexic in my brain. 84,000 agents. And that's, on a global scale. I don't know if you guys watched Inman Connect. There was a discussion on Inman and talking about the fact that EXP is one of the only, cash positive real estate brokerages in the country right now. They showed a comparison.
Yeah.
I know, they showed Compass, who is like, just in the red and in trouble if they don't change their business model. And they actually talked about the fact the way they're going to make more money is they're going to go ahead and do more commission splits with their agents. So those are the type of agents you should throw out a lifeline to come to our brokerage because it's truly a great way to benefit. Did you have something else?
No, no. I just want to make sure you guys, so that I know you guys get this one pager, just make sure I have your contact information one way or another. Either email me so that I send it to you or give me your card and I'll just do one email blast to everyone.
Yeah, sounds great.
Where's your district so we can vote for you?
What's your district again?
It's District 41, which is in Southern Nevada. I represent an area, but thank you. So the 15 freeway is my western boundary. Windmill, so where Blue Diamond is my northern boundary, and I go down to where St. Rose is, and then I go all the way down to like Maryland and Spencer. So I have some of Seven Hills, I have the Hamilton Executive Airport, the Raiders facilities in M, and then I have Silverton itself.
How many states assembly?
Or you can-
Spaces. So you know,